Is that your view of the world in a nutshell? That most of the people out there are out to beat you, not to help you?
Not to beat me?
That
In the competitive business world?
in the world in general.
If there are two ice cream stores on one street, does one guy wish well for the other? Yes. You know when? After me. It's so easy to say, listen, what did you say? You've been working in my butcher shop for the last 13 years, and you're going to open your own place? Across the street? Well, here's some flowers. Are you going to tell me that he's wishing that guy well that's going to open a butcher shop across the street who will take Mrs. Ginsburg business away from him? What he's really saying, I wish you well, go away. And anybody who denies that, I think, is lying to themselves. People say, Bill, you have a monopoly in the Bay Area. It's a monopoly when nobody can rent a building and when nobody can go to an agency. But when a new producer or promoter has just gotten his degree or just gotten his other education to prepare himself for this business, who has had this thought that, well, every time I go to a concert by Graham, there he is, he's got a lot of staff and he works Friday and Saturdays, and boy, I wouldn't mind having 4 days a week off and flying in from Palm Springs and doing those shows on the weekend. So he decides on some rainy Tuesday morning to call an agency and say, hello, my name is Jakob Putz, I want to buy Elton John. And the guy says, well, Elton John is coming around in 3 months, and he's going to work for more than likely for Bill Graham. Why? I want to present Elton John. Now the kid gets off the phone and calls the press or talks to his friends. He says, would you believe that? I'm willing to put down $50,000 for Elton John. Why should he be putting him on? Well, what about the fact that in 1970 or 71, I happened to be in London and I walked into this place and I heard a guy play a piano and I say, gee. And the end result of that, he plays the Fillmore. I don't make his talent. It's his talent. But there's a relationship. And so long as every time we see each other, the stage is okay, the sound is okay, the lights are okay, the security is okay, the backstage is okay, and we have a pleasant relation. Why should this young person take that act away from me? And if he tries to, I will be competitive. Should I say, excuse me, as Steve Martin would say? Is that what I'm supposed to do? When you have an organization of this size, and that's what we do for a living, because it was you on a Tuesday morning who decided to get into my business. You didn't answer an ad. You just decided to get into this wonderful thing. I don't want to be a cab driver. I don't want to wash dishes. I'm going to be a producer. Bill, do me a favor, just move a little to the left. Why?
Okay, so that's your answer as to your view of the business world. But I'd like to hear your view of the world, the rest of the world, the non-business world. I mean, there is one, right?
Yes.
There is one.
Yes.
Is the world out to beat you unless you beat it? Is that the way you look at it?
In one particular area of the world, more than any other, I don't believe that. I don't have enough experience. I travel extensively, but I don't live in the. I don't live in Milano. I don't live in Geneva. I don't live in London. I don't live in Paris. I go to these places. I'm going to Australia next week and Japan, but I don't live there. I live in Marin County. I live in the Bay Area, and I swing in the Bay Area, and I live there. And as the years go by, I feel less and less that people in general about to beat me. The people in general are competitive. I truly, truly feel that we are lucky, that we are blessed that this area exists. And I think too many people that live in this area don't realize how good we have it here. That when I walk through Corte Madera or Mill Valley or Fairfax, I don't feel that people are envious of me. I don't feel that people are greedy in their approach to life. I don't think we live in utopia there, but I really feel that it is the positive remnant or the positive survivors of the 60s. I know, just as only you know, what the last 10 years have done for you. I'm a New Yorker primarily. I'm still a big city boy who grew up with certain street habits. But if it wasn't for the Dead, for Garcia, for Cantner, for Marty, for some of the cops I met over there, for some of the public servants I met in San Francisco, and even though there's the other side of those kind of people, the opportunists, I'm a much more positive person than I would have been had I not lived and worked here in the last 10, 12 years. I'm still very opposed to heavy drugs. I'm certainly not opposed to the lighter drugs, the grass and hash and some of the other derivatives, because I've seen the ill effects of alcohol as well as the ill effects of LSD, some of the other psychedelic drugs. But there's a laissez-faire attitude and there's a communication that I never would have had if I continued to live in the survival jungle of New York City. That which has helped me to do whatever I do, good or bad, I couldn't have done without New York, without the Catskills, without waiting on tables, without becoming very good at dice or cards. So I used the New York survival instincts in my work out here. I've always thought one of the most fortunate things in my work is that I'm a New Yorker working out here. Where my mind just works differently, not better. It's just snap. It's much more switching gears. But at the same time, there are little pubs, there are restaurants, there are hills, there are valleys, there are ball courts that I can go to here, where people go out to play ball and have fun, not primarily to win and keep the court. Very, very big difference. In New York City, they want to play a nice game. They want to win, because if they don't win, they got to leave that court. Here, they want to win, but it's not the important thing. Let's have a good time. There's a very strong difference. I've been influenced by that. That doesn't mean that, oh, I don't mind winning or losing an act. But when I leave the play here and I go for the play out there, I don't feel the competitiveness.
You're a natural competitor, a man trained in survival who likes to live here because you don't have to compete as much.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah. Every time I go back to New York, I just came back from New York 2 days ago, I realize more and more that in one way I go back there to charge my battery, my instinctive battery, but then it's time to leave because I'm full of Texan Super, and I come back out here and I can continue with this because I will have spent a few days with the New York agents, with the New York managers, with the New York club scene, and the New York street. Even though the streets of New York, there's a turnaround in New York, it's fresher, the young people are more alive, but they're also geared, and they're right between first and second. They don't know if do I need a little more get off power? Get into the next gear. Out here it's, hi, how are you?